Welcome to the Potion Podcast, your raw look at the hospitality industry, brought to you by SHC. This week's episode is proudly sponsored by Bar Green Ellington for all your restaurant and bar needs. Visit bargreen.com for the full portfolio. What is happening, Post Shifters? Welcome back to another episode of the Potion Podcast. Of course, I'm your host, Shawn Soole. What a hell of a week. I'm still reading articles about labor shortages and people not coming back to work because of government handouts and bullshit. But I wanted to show you something because I have been harping on this a lot. I have been harping on the labor shortage, on staff coming back, what your intangibles are, all these different things. And so I wanted to give you a throwback episode to the State of the Union that I did 3 days before the lockout, before the lockdown in March of 2020 with Siegel from Pagliacci's, Peter Zambri from Zambris, and Brant now of Bartholomew's. Because the reason why I want to show this is that before the pandemic, we were having the same issues. The pandemic has not changed anything. We were still having the same issues, and I wanted to get down to the nuts and bolts of what, like a bit of a real throwback about what was the restaurant industry before the pandemic hit, which is really hard to think of like 16 months ago now. But hope you enjoy this episode, guys. Thanks as always for the support. I'll see you soon. Bye. If you haven't watched Potion Podcast before or listened to Potion Podcast before, it's my twice weekly podcast about the industry. And so today I want to do sort of a Victoria State of the Union restaurant scene from a couple of people that I hold up as peers, especially. Everybody on the panel is all my peers. So I'll let you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves.
I'm Peter Zambri. I have a restaurant in Victoria called Zambris.
How long have you been in the game for?
20 years. Here, 20 years, yeah.
It has to be longer than 20 years.
20 years. We just had our 20th anniversary on October the 18th.
Zambris been going for 20 years.
20 years, yeah.
Congratulations.
How long have you been in the industry for?
11 years in one location and now just over 9 in the other location.
And how long have you been in the game for?
Me personally?
Yeah. We're going to get personal.
You're exposing me here, eh?
That's why I was like, I wasn't going to let you get away with saying 20 years for Zambris. I'm like, you're much older.
About 35 years.
So,
Peter's old. I'm Solomon Siegel. Yeah, he is. He's got very nice shoes, and he looks better than me. So,
not nearly as smart, though.
Beautiful shoes.
I'm not nearly as smart as you are.
But just you guys just go a bit. Me and Peter are just gonna.
We're gonna hug it out. We're gonna hug it out.
Let's go right. Yeah. I know. So Shawn turned off my mic.
I didn't turn off my mic.
Yeah.
Saul, who are you?
Hello. Oh, there. See.
There we go.
Okay, there we go.
Hi, my name's Solomon Siegel. I am an owner and general manager of Polyaches here in Victoria. Opened since 1979. Yeah, I know.
You say I'm old.
Yeah. It opened before I was born. I started behind the bar when we came up to my dad's knee and started doing shifts on my own. I started working in the restaurant industry when I was 12 and been doing it ever since, pretty much.
Come on, darling.
My name is Brant Porter.
Oh, wow.
Where was our round of applause?
And I'm a young man trying his best.
You've been doing this for a fair while, though. Like, let's. The reason why I wanted you on this panel is that you're in the same sort of boat as Soul, not in like age-wise, but starting out in the game.
Not landlord, but thank you. I appreciate that.
Starting out in the game, and like you're the oldest young person, I think, in the industry right now.
That's very nice, thank you. I managed Veneto Bar Ristorante, which was formerly Veneto Tap Lounge in the Hotel Rialto. I think it was yesterday or the day before was my 2-year anniversary there, which is nice.
That's quick.
I've been in restaurants since I was 11, which wasn't that long ago. Yeah. Yeah, literally last year. Yeah, that's me.
Where?
Can you hear me?
My cousins, Ek and A, owned a Thai restaurant called Sabai Thai in Sydney and Langford. And my mom helped them open it and helped them manage it. And I was the only child in need of serious learning, so they stuck me there.
You're from here.
I'm from here.
Okay.
I'm from Victoria.
And so, for me, like, I don't actually usually get time to tell my backstory, but I've been in the industry for 22 years this year, and in Victoria for 14 of those. Been very lucky enough that I've gone from working at Moxie's to meeting people like Solomon and Peter and hiring Brant back in the day when he was a little kid.
20.
You weren't that. Were you younger than that? 20?
Probably just turned 20. September.
And as of the end of last year, I've opened 13 restaurants in 6 years. I think is my record now.
Wow.
13 restaurants in 6 years.
How are they all doing?
Oh, me. Oh, you're saying a tone.
All right, everyone, grab
You're saying a tone. But really, with this chat, I really wanted to make it about. I want to sort of start light and breezy, like most of my podcasts, where we talk about where the industry's come. The good thing with Soule being in the industry for as long as he has with Pagliacci's, he's seen the evolution from a 40-year-old family restaurant to now. I think Pete's got some great insights on the big changes from Zambris the new space, because it was very, very different. It was a very big change.
Much different.
So, and then Brant gets to sort of look in because he's sort of, even though he's younger, he gets to sort of ride in on the wave of cocktail culture. Because I think, just at the tone, like cocktail culture and restaurant culture, even 10, 11, 12 years ago, was not crazy. Like, it wasn't the way it is now, the way people talk about Victoria's cocktail culture. And I think I can speak more about cocktail culture than anything. But from the time, so you've been like really tight with your father since like obviously day one, and
Yeah, he wasn't sure about me for the first couple of years. But then when I was around 8, he started to warm up to me and include me in the inner circle.
But Pete, I think this question's for you. Like, how have you seen the restaurant industry change in the last 20 years? Because I think when you open Zambris in the new space, Victoria's cocktail culture 9 years ago was really starting to become mature and like starting to grow. But you went from this super rustic, I remember like wobbly stools at the bar, to like, which was awesome, to like this new space, new building, new everything. How have you seen the restaurant industry change in the last 20 years? For the
stool stabilized.
Well, it's changed completely. Like 20 years ago, there was like just a small handful of quality restaurants, and a lot of mediocrity. And I think the whole game has leveled up. There's way better restaurants. It seems like the clients know more. Like there was the whole, like within the last 20 years, there was this whole, Food Network culture as well. Like people just got into cooking, got into understanding restaurants, got into making better food at home. Like it's just this huge global phenomenon, and it's reflected here in Victoria as well. Like people just know more about food now. They're a little bit more concerned about their diet. Diets have changed. Like the whole thing from top to bottom is different than it was 20 years ago. Like just name it, from the amount of the demographic. There's more people in Victoria City. There's more people. There's more restaurants. There's more seats. There's better bartenders. There's more bars. There's like just across the plain. There's just more of everything. And I think not just with Victoria, but even Vancouver, like across Canada, it's the same thing. And I don't know. Is it better or is it worse? And that's kind of hard to say. I personally, I think it's better. There's more places to go to with quality food and a bigger variety to choose from.
But I think this is probably one for Soul. Like, Pags was such a mainstay for like 20 years. I always call them pre-internet restaurants. Like, I think the internet changed a lot of things, which we'll get into. But like, how has that changed the business model for like Pagliacci, which was in 1979? Which even 1979, like in the early 2000s, it had been open for over 20 years already. When things started to change, like what Pete's talking about, like the changes of diets and demos and stuff like that, like how has it affected? How has it changed business? I shouldn't say affected because it means negative connotation, but like has it changed business?
First off, I think I should give some background to tonight. We were having a drink at the bar before, and I was sitting with these gentlemen here, and there was some lovely young ladies there who brought up that he had a beautiful beard, Brant. I'm wearing Brant clothes, and completely ignored my beard. And
It's a great beard.
so thank you, but I came in here, Oh, we're getting some more beer at least. But then I tried to order a whiskey, and Shawn wouldn't let me order a whiskey. And so that's how this night's going so far. So I just want to, what was? But the question was about restaurants.
When we talk about how has it changed in 20 years, like Pags has already been around for 20 years.
Yeah. How's it changed in 20 years? I think that, there is the biggest change, I think, is that there is something broken with the restaurant-guest relationship. And I think the internet change that you speak of, what really broke is that our guests used to come in with the mindset that they wanted to have a great time. And many of our guests still do. And that was it, right? And our job as the restaurateurs was to make sure that they had the most fantastic night of their lives. And if a guest was having a bad night, they could be like, hey, my food's cold. And we go, oh my gosh, your food's cold. Let me fix that for you, right? And that was the extent of the relationship. The culture of online reviews has given a lot of guests the impression that they're there to review the restaurant. And I think that is one of the biggest things I think is unfortunate, because I think it interferes with the communication. Beer.
That's why you can't have whiskey yet.
Yeah, okay. Well, I wouldn't be burping if I had been drinking whiskey instead of beer. The communication between the guest and the restaurant has changed with a lot of guests, because they come in with the mindset that they're there to review the restaurant. And if anybody is here who writes online reviews, listening out there, go ahead, but you're not a reviewer. That's very, very important. Restaurant reviewers are different. So when you come into any restaurant, know that any good proprietor of that restaurant is there to make sure that you love your experience. And that's all they want. That truly is. Of course they want to make money, but the way we get to make money, the wonderful thing about our industry is that we get to make money by bringing people joy. So if you're not having an incredible night, tell your server, tell the restaurant, call them up, let them fix it, because they all want to. And I think that's probably, to me, the biggest change in restaurants is there's a lot of people who have lost track of what the purpose of going out is.
It's no longer symbiotic.
Well, do you think
in some cases there's plenty of great guests, but but I think that there's a confusion that's happening right now.
Man, I was going to start this light and breezy, but this is it's gone way deeper straight away.
But you
let me have whiskey, it would have been light and breezy.
Yeah, that's coming later. Do you think with this change of just like here to have the wonderful night of my life, or here to judge the food, are people going out more and like they're not saving our restaurants for a special occasion, but they're saving them for I just need a bite to eat, and then people are being more casual with their food in the sense of like we're cooking less at home, we're eating out of restaurants more, but therefore we're being a little bit more skeptical of what we're having, just because there's more, like they're just digesting more, they're going to more restaurants. Do you think that might be part of it?
I like that Brant took over the podcast here. You're in charge now, Brant.
Sorry.
No, we've changed the lead. This is Brant's podcast now. That's a great question.
The thing is, it's a great insight, because the thing is, at the end of the day, is like I think I agree with like Soul and you is like, at the end of the day,
don't get me wrong, reviewers suck. These people that like can come into your livelihood and cut you down without like looking you in the face.
With no experience to do that.
They don't suck.
Very well.
No, I take issue with that because that's if that's what the impression that I was saying, then I said
you're showing empathy because like you're trying. We're all people pleasers in the industry. Our main goal is to please people.
Yes, but there's been a confusion in the industry of what the purpose of going out to eat is, and I think that we as an industry have to bear the responsibility to get people in the right mode and kind of drop some of the formality, become a little bit more personable with our guests, remember that the people coming in are not we call them guests, not customers, for a very, very good reason, because they're not customers, they're our friends. They're our friends because, what my dad taught me when I was a little kid, of course they are friends. They're putting food on your table. So we can't, it's easy to kind of go, oh, they're jerks. But it's not that they're jerks, it's the communication is broken down, and we start becoming more, I look at all my bad reviews, and I really try and when I see them, I just pretend that someone's written me an email, and I try to respond to it like that, because otherwise it will hurt my feelings.
You're more of a man than I am.
Do you like your reviews, Pete?
I'm not allowed to read my reviews.
Are you not allowed to respond to the reviews?
You've hired great people, Zambri.
Yeah, I don't respond to the reviews either. My general manager responds to them.
How do you feel about the
Because I'm Italian and my blood boils when we get a bad review, even though it's brought up to me, right, secondhand, and it's just like, this is what this person said, what went wrong, how can we correct this, what do we need to do, okay? And then we just go about making adjustments if it merits to make an adjustment, because a lot of people point their finger at things that we've been doing for 20 years. Yeah. That's the way we've been doing it. If it doesn't sit well with them, I'm not going to change for one person because they didn't like what we do, right? Like, I think our history speaks for itself.
Do you think Food Network has the thing is, I always look at a lot of older bartenders who have been doing this for 40 years, and they write articles about like how to treat customers and that sort of thing, but you haven't worked behind the bar for 20 years, so you haven't had the app thrown in your face, like, can you make from a bartender point of view, or like, I saw this on Food Network, or
even just the pictures, man.
Yeah,
people take pictures of me without asking.
Oh, dude, come work at Pags for a day when you have
food, pictures of food posted, with like non-professional lighting. It's just, it makes our product look bad.
Totally, yeah.
Diminishes it's like,
we have people at Pags. I've worked at Pags on the floor, and it's literally like Instagram photos. Like, I want this off Instagram. I'm like, okay, that's the shell game. No problems at all. I'll get you the shell game. Yeah. Or the salmon the same. No problems at all. Mm-hmm. But as an internet thing, it's like I always say a lot of knowledge is a bad thing, because it also it sort of pushes that sort of agenda of over knowledge and over knowing about the Food Network stuff and how Giada cooks, and that's how Italian is, and so on and so forth.
But the people knowing more about food has made people who make food good, like, successful. And so the fact that, like, when like people are obsessed with, let's say, Food Network, and they know how to cook for themselves, they know this, they go to Zambris and they're just like, this is really good, and they start to know why, and they're able to speak that language, I think restaurants, I do believe restaurant culture is growing because people understand, like, this is a big deal, and there was a bit of that lost, I think, in part of the 20th century, which is like, cooking is important. These people are talented and hardworking, and what it goes from that to the plate is the reason why you're going out. And I really liked what you said, Solomon. It
really is the brand podcast now. It really is.
It's so much better than you.
It's definitely post-show podcast with Brant Porter.
Sorry. When you talk about the whole guest thing, like, that's like literally what was busting our brains, because like John Cannon was a very good friend of mine, or not friend of mine, a good friend of the people that own that restaurant that I grew up in.
He's like an uncle to me.
Yeah, and he is an uncle to me, and like, that was the rule. Just like no one leaves unhappy. No one leaves like not full. Just like the people, this thing.
But it's their responsibility to leave happy as well. Like if they don't tell you if there's a problem,
And that's where that symbiosis
right
comes
on time,
Totally.
and leave with a sour taste in their mouth, that's their issue,
100%.
right? Because we are there to make it better for them.
You ever you make a drink for someone, and hey, how's a drink? It's fine. You're like, what's up? Let's talk about it. It's like, it's fine. Just like, well, you're paying fucking like $15 for this thing. It's like the same as a plate of food. Like, let's not talk about fine. Like, how's it great? It's like, it's too sour. It's just like, done, easy fix, no problem. Like, literally whatever you want. Like, do not leave here
unhappy.
Yeah, and like, don't fucking keep it to yourself. You're not gonna hurt my goddamn feelings.
But we have to realize that a lot of our guests are coming in kind of brainwashed by, again, not talking down, but there's so much corporate culture now where, if you have a problem with Bell Mobility, there no one cares at Bell if you're happy or not. They truly don't care. They're an evil corporation.
Bell sponsor.
And they don't care, right? But if you go and you post something, if this gets this podcast big enough, then Bell might call and understand and ask me why I don't like them. Right, but because they care about that.
You got a few minutes?
Yeah, no, but the squeaky wheel kind of thing, where I know that if I want to renegotiate my cell phone contract, I call up the cell phone company and go, I'm very unhappy and I'm canceling and I'm going to another company. And if I don't say that, I'm not getting the real deal.
Yep.
They don't care anyway.
They don't care. I have to say that. And it's in their script. If I don't say that I'm leaving and react in a big enough way, then they can't give me the good deal. Right? And that's where people, our guests are coming in to our restaurants with the idea that they have to, that nobody cares at the restaurant about them, that the server can't fix a problem, that the only way that they're going to get, and that if they're going to send an email, it's going to go to some management office who doesn't care, that the only way to really get noticed is to go online and be loud about it, kick and scream.
Yeah.
And whereas, the staff that I train, right, I go, nobody leaves unhappy. Mm-hmm. You run down the street and hand someone back their money before you let them leave unhappy. It's the worst thing that can happen to a business is to have your advertisement, which is really the best advertisement, the only true advertisement is your guests talking about you.
Totally.
I think word of mouth gets
why Pags have been open for.
Yeah.
I think
1,000 years.
1,000 years.
I think word of mouth gets undervalued and overvalued a lot of the times. Like it gets true word of mouth, person to person, gets undervalued, and social media word of mouth gets overvalued quite a lot.
Yeah.
But that's like across the board with everything these days.
Yes,
Not just
100%.
restaurants.
So
Makeup.
going back,
Right?
Any buy, sell. The whole game's changed.
So going back, and me and Saul have had long conversations about this one, so this is going to be a great question because we've had massive conversations about this.
Sean's wrong, just to get to the end of the conversation.
Would you have opened a restaurant the way you did 20 years ago, 40 years ago, the same way?
Well, you're the one
Because my opinion is if you opened a Pags today in the ecosystem we live in, you would just get crucified online. Tables too close. That's why I call it pre-internet restaurants. You actually did it in this sort of, you created a brand based on organic growth through real person-to-person relationships.
Well, I think you're answering your own question then. I wouldn't open the same restaurant as I did 20 years ago. It would have to be different.
There would be no choice. It would be different.
Would you open Zambris Part 1, or would you open Zambris Part 2?
I would open Pagliacci's.
Correctamundo.
But Saul and I have chatted about this at length because People complain about too big of portions. People complain about being in line. People complain about 2 tables too close, too loud, too so on. And we talk about reviews and stuff, and they go, game past that.
Is this a question about the customer now? Because people are going to complain about everything anyways.
It sounds more like it sounds like Solomon. Are you going to open up packs tomorrow?
Well, I mean, it's kind of an impossible question, right? Because there's, obviously I wasn't there at the beginning of opening Pagliacci's, and I have to go by, the stories that I heard, right? And I mean, and there was certain aspects that were a pretty different reality of the day, right? Which, in Victoria, nobody had a functional espresso machine. Nobody made cooked cheesecake. Nobody could serve alcohol on Sundays, right?
That's crazy.
Yeah, nobody had live music, right? So and the Mint was a good example of that, because when the Mint first opened, where we're sitting right now, they were the only license in Victoria that was allowed to serve drink every Sunday between midnight and 2 a.m.
Which was a completely fuck up at the city council. Someone at the city council fucked up the food party sign off on that one.
Yeah. So if you wanted to drink in Victoria
next door
for 2 hours a week, this was the only room in Victoria where you could get it. And there used to be a lineup out front of people getting in, and then the VIP lineup out back. And the people I don't think one person ever got in the lineup out front. And Pagliacci's had that for Sundays when we in 1979. Like, there was nobody else. And then we had live music, and we had food that had spice in it, which at the time meant garlic. It was an ethnic black pepper and garlic, right? It was this crazy, insane thing, right? And it was, so the market was so radically different, right? Because the food in Victoria was really bad at that point. Like, the restaurant that had been in the space of Pagliacci's was serving like old people stale white bread cucumber sandwiches, right? Nothing was made fresh. There was no flavor going on. There was really nothing going on. And then my dad and my uncle and the Di Fiore family opened up Pagliacci's, and the Di Fiore family brought over like a bunch of traditional Italian recipes that we started with. My dad, I think influenced a lot of his like love of the kind of New York style eatery. They brought in live music and all that excitement. And the tables weren't close together immediately. The tables got close together because they got busy, and they kept on adding tables because they wanted people to have a seat, right? So there was a very organic part of Pagliacci's that started out. And if you look at old menus, you'll see 1 or 2 dishes that were there, but there was a lot of trying to figure out what the guests wanted and what worked, and keep doing what worked and change what didn't. And we try and still do that. So I guess in some ways I would open up that again, because I would still open up a place that tries to ride the wave of what's working and throw away what doesn't work.
I think that's really hard, though.
It's very hard.
I think more now than ever. And we talk about this a lot when we look at restaurants that we look up to. They open with like a focus, and it's like razor sharp. Like, here's what we're gonna do. Here's how we're gonna do it. We have spent this many R&D hours to make sure that we are going to give this product, and this is why. And it feels like those restaurants sometimes are more successful than ones like Pags, where it's just like, we're going to open up a restaurant because we believe in this and this food, and we believe in the fact that the space is open, and we'd like to open a restaurant. And then working through experience and movement and change, and being able to kind of fuck it up a couple times, or but
I think it's based on the why versus the how. You're talking about restaurants opening because of the how, not because of the why.
Right.
And the why is more important. What made you open Zambris?
I had nothing better to do with my life.
Let's get to it.
I was living in Italy, and I came back specifically to open that restaurant.
I think
okay, no one's allowed to swear anymore. He's just walked in the room.
My daughter's here now. Yeah.
Someone wanted to come see Dad.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. I think, I think one of the reasons why, Peter's being, coy and cautious, but one of the reasons why he opened his restaurant, why my family opened a restaurant, is we want to make a living. And I think one thing that's easy to forget,
also, because I don't know how to do anything else.
Yeah, because we want to be able, we want to be able to afford to buy food.
Never done anything else.
We want to, and we want to, buy our kids, fancy jackets and plastic toys that
jacket.
olives, to keep our children happy. But that's so critical to, and it's not. And I think sometimes your Gentile culture kind of looks down a little bit upon the desire to make a living and to make money. But it's a good thing, because if more restaurateurs looked at their guests and went, these people are going to make me money. Wow, I have to be good to these people. I have to keep them in here. I have to keep them happy. That's why, I grew up with a dad who would chase guests down the street if they were unhappy and bring them back in, because he didn't want to let that go. He wanted to make a living for his family. And that's ultimately the reason why we're doing it. And it almost seems like a dirty thing. We're supposed to say it's about the culture or the craft or the art form or some higher calling. But there's nothing negative about wanting to make money in the hospitality industry. In fact, it's a wonderful way to make, it's very hard to do, but it's a wonderful way to make money. You get Italian culture, Jewish culture, there's a basic thing of when you love people, you feed them. That's how you express love to people, is by putting food in front of them and making sure they eat it.
I can't deny that at all.
Yeah, it's true. So we get to make our money by feeding people, by giving our cultural expression of love.
It sounds like you're conning someone when you put it that way.
Yeah.
It's just you're going to pay me for this?
We could be writing parking tickets. We could be writing parking tickets. I could be. I'm numerous enough that I can.
For someone who I thought was going to be the most vocal person on my panel tonight, you're actually the quietest.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, I've got nothing to say.
But how do you, let's get back to, how do you
be yourself, Peter?
Because the great thing is that I know Solomon, posted taking over Pags, and I know Solomon when he had Solomon's, so I have all the horror stories and all the stories from Solomon's back in the day, and when he talks about passion and versus money and stuff. We've done seminars on this whole thing. How do you balance off? Looking back, how do you always balance? Because you're a super passionate person. I think your real thing is your happy place where you're just making food in the kitchen and not really worried about ticket times or anything like that. How do you balance that off? How do you balance your passion?
Well, I am worried about ticket times. It's the most important thing for me.
100%.
Really?
Ticket
Absolutely.
times.
So you,
yeah, absolutely.
Get people their food.
So passion and ticket times. Passion first, ticket times. Forget the money.
But you know what? For me, is I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Things that have gone in that have already happened. If there's a problem, we rectify it, and it's done with. What's going on with tomorrow? What's coming in tomorrow? Who's going to be here tomorrow? Right? That's kind of how I just keep happy and keep my focus. I don't worry about the past. I worry about what's right now and how we're going to be tomorrow. That's just all I do.
That's a good segue.
So talking about that, what do you feel in the next 5 to 10 years are going to be the biggest issues in the restaurant industry? Well, I know we've already got some massive issues now, and we talked about a few people that hung out.
Food security.
Okay.
Food security. That's probably the biggest issue. Things are what is it? There used to be 250 different varieties of apples, and now there's 10. Stuff like that, right? How you can get your food local. I'm a big proponent of trying to use as much local product as I can. Let's face it, I have to make an omelet with peppers in the wintertime, and they come from either Mexico or California or wherever. But in the summertime, most of my products is local. And I think that's where most people are going to move towards. Even larger restaurants.
Do you think that's going to be a slow progression where people start thinking about it, doing
I think everybody already has.
Do you think it's everybody though?
Yeah. Well, it's in most people's minds whether or not they proceed in that direction.
Well, Well, I think that again it goes a little bit back to the internet and social media and stuff like that. Like, of course, it's in everybody's minds, but people are still going to buy bananas every single week.
Well, we have to.
So, like,
Or avocados or
well, no, but
whatever.
they're not overly thinking about where their food's coming from. They're still going to Market on Yates and picking up XYZ, and like they're still on the yard.
People are far more conscious than they've ever been about their eating habits.
But for
Word of
me,
mouth.
it's going back to, is that just the little bubble that we live in?
Or like,
100%.
yes.
Overall,
Like, is that just
Yes.
because everything
Like, let's face it, the fact is that it's still a small demographic of people that actually get it.
or a small demographic with a small demographic, frankly.
But I think
we live in Canada.
everything,
Small population.
the social media algorithms play towards what we search for and what we look up and what we read. So we get all this great things about cocktail culture, about wine culture, about food culture, all this sort of shit. It all comes like bursting in through our iPhones when we're going to bed at night. But really on the macro, if you go to the grocery store, are people actually like picking the organic stuff? Are people actually going, when you're at the local liquor store, are people actually like picking up bottles of like local Amara and BC spirits and like that sort of thing? Or are people still walking out with Lucky and freaking Mickey's of, sorry, I'm swearing with the kid, with Mickey's of vodka and Lucky in the rest?
Sorry, Sadie.
I'd like to take a moment at this time to thank our sponsor, Soylent Green. Soylent Green, it's people.
But I'm just curious, like, I think
Peter's
Are
correct.
you not cooking people yet? What do you do with the dishwashers when you're done with them?
they get sent out with tags.
The dishwashers are a whole different breed.
Yeah, we'll turn off the mics and talk about this.
So we're talking about food sovereignty, and I think a lot of the issues that we're seeing in the hospitality industry, whether it be living wage, which is increasing aggressively quite a lot every year in
That's the
BC.
reckoning.
MSP.
You missed what?
MSP.
MSP.
Which is no longer, now we have the employee health tax, which
Which
is
you guys
really
pay for that.
it's very much impacting small restaurants because restaurants have larger payrolls than similar sized businesses in other sectors.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, great, MSP disappeared. Like, no, I'm just paying for it. Who are you?
Well, I think that's one of the biggest confusions out there for guests too. That's a very difficult thing for restaurateurs to try and communicate. That the high costs of running a restaurant, it's extremely challenging, right? Because we've all seen the complaints of being too expensive.
Yes.
And we all look at our prices and we go, geez, I gotta raise it by 50 cents here because I gotta be able to make a living. And most restaurants, most good restaurants, if you have a 10% profit margin, that means if for every $10 you make $1 of actual profit, you're running a well-run restaurant. There's plenty of restaurants that are doing far worse than that. And I think that is one of these huge communication challenges, especially when there's a lot of corporate restaurants who bulk buy the worst quality products to feed to their guests and cut corners wherever they can. And where small restaurants, where I think we just can't do that and it would hurt our souls. Even if our guests don't say anything about the type of pasta we buy, we need to buy the right pasta that we feel good serving. We need to buy the cheese that we feel proud of serving. And then the big corporate ones, they're buying the cheapest cheese and the cheapest pastas, and you might not recognize it as a guest, but that's why they can kind of get away with their pricing the way they do it.
At 12%.
Yeah.
Or 15.
Yeah, and they're making better percentages on that pricing too.
So outside the food sovereignty, sort of like, I think food sovereignty is definitely a higher level sort of issue that we have to deal with. Like talking coming down to food costs and stuff like that. Like food costs are not getting any cheaper.
Never.
At all. Never. It continues to increase.
But you can't raise your prices to match that, or people don't come back.
In the last 6 years, our food costs has gone up, that we've allowed to go up on purposely about 7 or 8%. from what it was, like 8 years ago, because we're not going to stop the quality, we're not going to cut quality, we're not going to cut portions, but we can't raise the prices as quickly as food costs are going up. So we're just keep eating those costs and dealing with slimmer margins.
Pete?
Same.
It's the news.
Okay, but on the flip side, from an employee standpoint, like Brant, you're one of the younger generation. Luckily, we're a little bit older. We've got a little bit more money in the bank sometimes, and partners and so on and so forth.
Sure, my dude.
But from a and I'm sure that Solomon and Pete will be able to touch on this when it comes to labor shortage and stuff like that. But from your guys' point of view, what is stopping younger people getting in the hospitality industry when it comes to the cost of living in Victoria? Just Victoria.
I think entry level positions in hospitality don't pay very well, and I mean they can't. I don't have a particular solution to that. But I don't think entry level positions pay enough for people in this city to live, more or less. And that depends on restaurant, but it's starting to feel that way. And moreover, I don't know. It's restaurants have gotten a bad rap for a little bit, and it's worrisome. The world's more connected, and when you make a choice to, you're a young person, where am I going to work, how I'm going to make my way, I'm going to university, or I'm just trying to do a thing, and just well, I heard so-and-so got fucking yelled at for dropping thing. I'm going to go over there. Yeah. Or whatever it may be. And so I think the restaurant industry is coming to terms with it's not becoming the wild, wild west that it was, of we'll be real small because tips are good and you get to live your nightlife and all your fantasies will come true because you work at a restaurant.
Well, Pete's itching to say something right now.
Not really. I think you're correct. It's it's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle choice to work in a restaurant.
And I think that's
it's definitely not the money game that it was once. When rents were cheaper, food was cheaper, wage was cheaper, everything was less expensive, and the owner and proprietor just made better money. And it just doesn't happen like that anymore.
No, it doesn't.
Well, I think in Victoria especially, I talk to my wife about it all the time about moving to Vancouver and stuff. I think in Victoria, especially over Vancouver, they say Vancouver's really expensive, but I think Victoria, how much money you can actually make taps out way quicker than what you can make in Vancouver, but the cost of living is as high in Victoria as in
very
Vancouver.
Similar. If you
but you can't make as much money.
No, of course.
It's way worse here. And I think it is a passion thing, but again, going back to what Sol and I were chatting about, passion versus money and stuff, we've talked about this on a number of occasions. Passion can only get you so far.
Passion doesn't get young people in the door to do these jobs. Passion comes later. Passion comes with hey, getting you started. Passion comes
you're a busser for 18 months. No, I want to be a busser for 6 months. Then I want to be a head server by 12.
Totally. And you're well, no, that doesn't happen. It's just I can get this construction job, get paid $36 an hour. I have a break time. I have this time. I have that. I always have my weekends. If I don't have my weekend, I get paid 64. So it's hard. It always feels like we are behind the gun with sort of things. Is that a Shirley Temple? Oh, nice.
Yeah. My podcast has gone off the rails. Brant's hosting. I have a kid on the panel with a Shirley Temple. This is not post your podcast.
That looks really good.
The thing is that with Sadie is that she's got more restaurant experience than most of the people I know. We were cooking dinner together the other night, and she started playing restaurant. restaurant where we're cooking dinner. And for Sadie, what playing restaurant looks like is she goes, I'm like, well, how's it going? She's like, my server's an hour late. One of my cooks didn't show up. The food's taking too long. I'm like, what are you going to do? I'm like, I'm going to lock the customers in. So they can't get out until we feed them.
Give them more bread.
Give them more bread
and like crank the music.
Let's give Sadie a microphone.
Or, yeah. Do you want to say anything?
No.
Okay. So I do want to get to a Q&A section.
Oh, one other good Sadie story because she's here is so we were in a local restaurant having dinner together, but really early. So there was it was too early for the restaurant to be busy. Well, maybe. Yeah. Well, let's see. Shawn wants some other stuff. Wants to. So we're sitting there in the restaurant. It hasn't picked up for dinner yet. It's slow. There's maybe a couple other tables, and she looks over and goes, "Dad." And I go, "What is it?" I'm like, "Look over there." I'm like, "What am I looking at?" There's one person sitting at a table for 4. You have to do something. And she was like, guys. Yeah, she was like, she understood. She was like, move them, get them. So if
Sadie was actually Peter Zambri.
Yeah.
So let's go to a personal level because I want to actually talk about way more stuff than this because we didn't even touch on cocktail culture in Victoria because that was a big one for me, but that's completely out of sorts now.
You always cut me short.
Hey?
You always cut me short. You don't want to hear the truth, Shawn. You don't want to hear what I have to say.
I was just about to give you props for the reason that we have cocktail culture in Victoria is you. And that's on camera. That's on a live feed here that your dad's probably live feeding and watching it at the same time and on tape. So
my father just for another before the show mishap. My dad, I thought when Shawn said live that this was going to be a live broadcast thing.
It is a live broadcast.
Well, it is.
You guys are all here. It's live.
Yeah. Peter's just left. He did. Bye, Peter. Thanks for stopping by.
I was literally about to start tying it off, Pete, but now I have to wait for you to come back and pee. I have to pee as well, Pete.
Well, Peter
so
Zambri
actually,
has left
while
the
all
building.
3 of us here, we can do a quick story about cocktail culture in Victoria. Don't interrupt me.
No promises.
So, Solomon opened up Solomon's in 2008. 2008, Solomon opened up Solomon's. It was the cocktail bar in Victoria, the very first one. I took over Clive's in 2009. And the big one I wanted to talk about, because I just got something this last week, but it's only been 10 years since we took over Clive, so it's only been 11 years since.
Oh, you got something. He is Lifetime Achievement Award.
That means you need to die this year.
Congratulations, son.
Thank you.
You deserve it.
But we talk about cocktail, and we're very lucky in Victoria now that we have this sort of very vibrant, going back to food culture and wine culture and cocktail culture.
We're not lucky. You guys made it.
No, we are lucky because the thing is it takes perseverance and patience and a lot of downs and ups and that sort of thing. I laugh when I talk to youngsters who work at Clive's now and say, "So, you guys have been quiet?" "No, yeah, it's so quiet." I'm like, "Well, when I first took over Clive's, the first 18 months on a Saturday night, I bring out $120 with just me on the floor and walk with $25 in my pocket. And I did that for 18 months straight." They're like, "Excuse me, what?" That was Clive's for the first 18 months. And Solomon's wasn't much better. There was some really great nights, but there was nights where I'd walk in there, it was just me and Sol on a Sunday.
There was one night when that was literally it the entire night.
It was just me and Sol.
It may have been the most depressing night of my life.
And it was me and you. It was me and you. How was that depressing? So it was me and Sol, and Sol had picked up all these books from cocktail. We were like,
what's your Martinez?
We were literally geeking out hard. We were going through old cocktail books and figuring out old recipes and stuff. But the cocktail culture now is so vibrant, and everybody who's here is sort of really lucky enough to be able to experience that.
Excuse me, sir, this is a private event.
I think you're looking for the people in the back. The staff party in the back, I think that's you. So I want to tie this up because I want to do Q&A, but on a personal level, I'm going to start with you, Brant, because you're the youngest.
Thanks.
On a personal level, how do you feel about the next 2 years? I think it's personal and career-wise. Like, how do you feel about the next 2 years being in Victoria? How do you see it transpiring?
Oh man, I don't know. I think you're kind of silly to put yourself in a place where you're like, here are my next 2 years.
I thought you were calling me silly, and I was just like, excuse me, dude, it's my fucking podcast. You've taken over the whole fucking thing. It's my podcast.
It's a podcast. It's silly. just figure it out. It's fine.
Can we have a vote to see whose podcast? I think it's hands up if it's Brant's podcast. Hey, it's Brant's podcast now. Sorry, Shawn.
Fuck you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can you hug Shawn for me?
Oh, sorry, Sadie.
No.
No, please, just
We'll hug.
okay, thank you.
No, just give me a 2-year introspective look.
So I think Peter said very well. It's just like, I'm not looking back, I'm always kind of looking forward. But also, like, I think you're kind of just like looking at, like, day to day. What I hope when I think about Victorian cocktail culture is that I hope we start to integrate, our general kind of like population clientele. I think cocktails are kind of this like weird, cool, bougie thing, and they cost a lot of money, and they're this like fine sort of thing. And I see it more and more, and I look at places like the Drake, where there's like a bunch of young people having pints of beer at 3 a.m.
You want to make the pie bigger.
They don't know. They wouldn't do that.
What was that?
There's no 3 a.m. though, right?
Oh, sorry, 3 p.m. Sorry. Yeah. I mean, 3 a.m. would be really great. But I think what needs to happen is more accessibility for all of us, and that's going to make the pie bigger. And that's where I see that going. One thing that was really cool, and Solomon did it, and you did it, was just like no more cosmopolitans. Like, can't juice cranberry. We're not going to do cosmos anymore. And then
Soul said no to olives. The devil's testicles.
And you're wrong. And you're
you haven't heard this story?
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay. Well,
we're gonna do bloopers after this. There's so many great stories.
So no Cosmos for like 2-3 years, and then people just drink more and more cocktails, and then it's just like, do you want a Cosmo? Absolutely. Like, I'd love to make you a Cosmo because you're asking for a cocktail, not a beer or not a wine, and then so like we're able to do it. It's easier. Espresso, same thing happened. Cafe Fantasco opened up, and they were like, espresso. Hey, do you have tea? No. Leave. Espresso. And then now they have an enterprise, and so that's happened with cocktails, and like that also has happened with food. And now things are being more inclusive, and that's what I want to see.
But I also think we have to always go back to zero. We have to go back to the very beginning and like educate more clientele coming up on how we should do it.
Which is easy because clientele are checked in. That's an easy part, and a lot of problems is that they're too checked in. They know too much, and so you can't go to the table and lie anymore. You gotta.
When did you do that to start with?
This industry is 80% bullshit, 20% skill. Pete, come
right?
on.
And so all that we're getting is the need for better trained staff and better restaurants and better products and better things because people have more knowledge, and knowledge is power.
I'd like to clarify something.
Oh.
No,
the devil's testicles.
I love all of this.
Okay, let me preface this one. Let me preface this one. In the start of any culture, I think there's always going to be someone who puts their foot down and is like, no, this is the way we should be doing it. And Sash Petresky in New York did it. A lot of people have done.
You were right to do it.
But
I have a career because you did that.
But Soul also started it as well. It's like there's a certain point where you're like, this is not ingrained as great customer service. You have to always preface it with the fact that you always want to give a customer what they want. No, sorry. You don't give a customer what they want, you always give a customer what they need. And They may not need, they may want a Cosmopolitan, but they really should try a Clover Club or an Aviation or these like cocktails that you're trying to push. And that sort of, it starts the seed. And I always look back at Clive's and Soule's to a degree. And there was plenty of times where in my route of trying to be a people pleaser and trying to keep everybody happy, you'd go home going, oh, I should have done that better. And I banned cranberry juice at Clive's. Like, for a long time. Fuck cranberry juice. No cranberry juice. Because if we couldn't get proper cranberry juice, you don't get a Cosmopolitan. My Cosmopolitans, by the way, are fucking gangster. I make the fucking best Cosmos ever. But
I remember Jeffrey Morgan calling you out.
On my Aviation?
No, for the Cosmo.
Yeah, fuck him. But at the end of the day...
What do you have to clarify?
But I think he's getting it. But at the end of the day, I always look back and it's like, if you can have an Aviation at the marina, if you can have an Aviation, there's always going to be someone who's going to be the root. Who people like pick on, think they're an arsehole and that sort of thing. And I've always been okay with that moniker. It took me a long time to be okay with that. But there's always a point where you're like, you know what? If you have the opportunity, someone actually has a cool cocktail as an Aviation or a Clover Club, it's something like that. I think while food is a little bit different, Pete did it with certain pastas. Like, you have to do this pasta this way because this is the traditional way of doing pasta. You should try this first. If you don't like it, you're never going to win over everybody.
Is there an example, Peter, of a dish that?
Don't repeat that. Solomon's got his mic ready.
I just wanted to. So what I did, to be specific, was what everybody does, which is to choose certain products that you're going to stop and certain products you're not going to stop. Mm-hmm. And if you base your there's kind of a bias that happens in restaurants where someone comes in and goes, do you have Budweiser? And you go, I don't have Budweiser. And they go, wow, oh yeah, that's a drag. So then you go and get Budweiser. And the next day they go, do you have Coors? And they're like, oh, I don't have Coors. And then you go, okay, now you got Coors. And like, do you have Labatt's? And pretty soon you've stocked all the completely pedestrian beers that everyone knows the name of, and you have no interesting beers. So your menu is just like everybody else's, and you have nothing unique about it. Mm-hmm. You have to be careful to not do that when you're building a menu because you can't have every product under the sun. So I made a conscious attempt to stock different products for the menu, and I never said no to a cocktail that I could do, but I just couldn't do certain cocktails because I didn't stock certain products. I didn't have olives in any cocktail, so I didn't stock bar olives, right? So I didn't go to and obviously there and there's that. And to be fair, there was a certain amount of evangelicalism that's in me about cocktails and martinis and stuff, where I discovered the truth of how to make a great martini, and I want to spread that to the world to a certain extent. So there certainly was that part of it, and I think that there always is going to have to be a push and a pull in any sort of culture where we get to the point where there's restaurants that are going, there's no salt on the table and we refuse to give you ketchup and to that level, and then you inevitably are going to have the pushback to the other side where people are like, yeah, of course there's salt on the table. You want ketchup on your pasta? Sure, have ketchup on your pasta. It's not my food anymore.
See, this is the one great thing is that this is Soule's like sugar-coated version of his Walden Solomon's, and then I remember it way differently. So Soule's is like do 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 do, and then mine's like rah. And I feel like mine's more.
Can you explain that again, please?
Say that one more time.
Let's say that one more time.
Yeah. Soule's is do 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 do, and then my version's rah. Get up in the bar and kick everybody out at 9 o'clock.
I never kicked anybody out.
Are you sure about that?
The liquor board came in because I didn't kick him out at 3 a.m.
I waited for a drink for an hour once.
Oh! Get out
Put him on the table.
So did I.
Been waiting all night for that. I take back everything I said about your nice shoes.
So I loved your drinks.
Yeah, thank you. You were my best customer.
So Pete, for the next 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
Because
Pete,
waited.
for the next 2 to 3 years for you, what's next?
Maintain. Just maintain. Keep going. Keep going forward. Right? Just.
I honestly, like, I wasn't expecting this from you. You've said the most prolific things today.
Huh? Really?
Yes.
I think I have a few surprises up my sleeve.
No, I honestly, like,
You'll see. Everybody's gonna. I do have a few surprises up my sleeve that everybody's going to.
No, even for me, like, I talk about it all the time. Like, you're like not removing tomorrow and just pushing forward to tomorrow. Like, forgetting about yesterday, what happened yesterday. I think it's a really hard thing for hospitality people to do, because I think ingrained deep down, regardless of the bravado, the egos, the obnoxiousness, everything like that, like, we're people pleasers deep down inside. So when we read reviews or get a bad comment or anything like that, it really hurts us deep down inside, because we don't get in this industry and we talk about money and all stuff, but it really is passion, and it's about the incessant need to please absolutely every single person that comes through our door. We want to treat everybody like our very best friend and give them the best experience ever. So when anything sort of goes sideways, it always just like gut punches us. Like, you know, like you see those like memes.
Oh, I see it every day.
Hey?
You see it every day. We all see it every day. There's issues and problems that go on every single day. It's the way that you deal with them that separates like the men and the boys.
But was this
the girls and the ladies?
The people and the older people.
Yes, exactly. Thank you for politically correct.
But was this can't be a new thing. This can't be an old thing for you. This is not
people in the box.
Like, that's what you do. That's just what you got to do. You just
have you always been this way?
Yeah, of course.
No, but really, like, let's be legit.
Well, I flip out and get upset and pull my hair out and stab my feet on the floor and
you have a couple cocktails, you go to bed, you wake up the next morning, you're ready to rock and roll.
Ready to go. Every day, ready to go. Wake up, ready to go. Next day, what's going on?
I wish I could be like you.
Yeah, man.
Your feet hurt if you stomp too much.
What's that?
Your feet hurt if you stomp too much.
Yeah, exactly.
You find a way to stomp less, right? What's that?
He's got beautiful shoes on.
He is great.
You know, you walk into the day, no matter what time, 5 in the morning or 8 o'clock, whenever your kind of shift starts, with this bright, really like outlook, and you're going to make everything as good as you possibly can. And then a lot of times you go to bed and you finish the night and you're like, oh, shit, that was horrible. And then the next morning you wake up and you do it all again.
It was funny.
I want a Peter Zambri soundtrack in my head. I want to wake up every morning with like sunshine, lovely drops, and rainbows and everything. And I want to wake up like that.
I'm not kidding you.
Not a Norwegian death metal band in my head when I wake up. Like,
one of the
you mentioned you went to a bar in Napa.
This is my podcast, dude.
We voted. It's not your podcast anymore.
It's not your podcast.
Brant is the captain now.
I am the captain now. Oh, and you like mentioned that you had a bartender that like sort of sucked, and yeah, and it's like when you know, I always wonder, like, was that bartender invested in the property, or was he just like a guy who like clocked in and out? Because I know me having different roles and like different concerns. Sometimes when I'm across the bar, I'm not my best because I'm always looking at the light, or I'm looking at the music, or I'm just like worried about like what's happening outside with cops, or you know what's going on plumbing downstairs. And so I always make sure that I am like counterparty with someone like Mike, or like one of our team members, whether it's Raven or it's Garrett or it's whomever, who is just like, this is your golden shining angel. Like they will help you. I'm gonna go scream in the walk-in for 20 minutes because I have everything to worry about. And so I know you as an operator and an owner, just like screaming in the walk-in sometimes because we're like, I thought we figured this out. I thought we figured out whatever it was.
Every day.
What happened?
Every day.
Yeah. And so it's like you do your best to not make that front-facing.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things is, I mean, being as this is a bartending podcast,
sure,
at its core, and I think the thing that attracted me most to bartending probably is that it really is front of house. You're an actor. right? And it doesn't mean that being an actor doesn't mean you're being fake. It means that you're playing a role, that you're putting on your stage makeup, that like regardless of what's going on in your life, your job is to go out there and spread joy and happiness and give and be the center of the party and keep it going, right? Yeah, it's time to shine, right? And being a bartender, you have a little bit of the chef thing in you, where you're working with your hands and you have to create and do stuff, but you have to keep up the facade of being on stage the whole time. Earlier you mentioned about taking pictures, and I was going to be like, I didn't get it at the time, but I'm like, gee, that's part of the gig. You're goofy at Disneyland, man.
Yeah.
And you're short. Maybe you'd be Minnie Mouse. I don't know.
I'd for sure be Minnie.
He's definitely Minnie Mouse.
Yeah. But that's part of the gig is that there you're on stage, right? So you have to remember that and absolutely go scream in the walk-in, and that's your time when you get to go behind the stage and go and let it all out, and then you go back out on the floor. And when you're on the floor, you need to be on stage. You need to smile and look at people and tell them that you're having a great night.
Because you are.
Yeah.
Because you're at work.
Work's great. I've had moments where I've been at restaurants and been loving my experience, being so happy, and then then you see like the boss or something, and then you look over at the boss and you're like, who maybe and you're like, hey, how are you? And they're like, and then you're like, oh,
and you're like, well,
okay.
fuck, thanks, pal.
Like it was your job. I'm here to have a great time, actually. So just later we'll have a beer and you can tell me how rough your life is. But if we're not going to leave somewhere and have a beer together, then you need to have your stage makeup on and be happy and make sure that your guests are getting the experience. They're paid for a show.
Which is funny because you work at a restaurant called Pagliacci's.
Yes.
Put on your clown makeup. Beat your drum.
Yeah. And then half an hour later you see Solomon crying upstairs and stuff or
crying. Yeah. Well, that's the joke, right? Where the guy goes to the doctor and he goes, I'm so miserable. I can't. My life is just horrible and I'm so unhappy. He says, well, what you have to go, the great clown Polyaches in town. You got to go see the great clown. He'll cheer everybody up and he'll make you happy again. And the doctor goes, but doctor, I am Pagliacci.
And on that note, do we have any questions from the crowd? Literally anything at this stage, because Brant will answer anything. He's had 3 drinks, so
I've had 3 full drinks.
He's had 3 full drinks in the last 8 hours.
Yeah.
So, Brant, is it question session? I'm not sure. Shawn has the authority to.
I have a question. Would you guys like anything to drink?
No, Brant's good.
Do you have Bushmills?
But
yeah, no.
Well, I
like that. Yeah, we do. Look at Alex. No, we don't.
I'm like,
Solomon, you wanted a whiskey?
Yeah. What do you? Well, I want a Bushmills now.
We're not. But honestly, any questions that you guys have?
Like a Jameson's or something?
Anything?
Double, neat.
Single needs for the.
Single needs for all y'all.
Yeah.
It was like a triple knee.
This isn't for me, is it?
No, Dave's got a question.
No, Dave's got a question.
Hey, if you got to talk in the mic because I'm recording.
Camille's got a question.
Yeah. Camille Iverson, Veneto Bar Restaurante. How do you think cocktail culture is going to change in the next 5 years? In Victoria specifically.
Can I take this one?
I really hope you do, because I'm curious. I basically make my living around like these sort of predictions that you get.
So I think in Victoria we're very fortunate. I think we have a great saturation point in Victoria. So I talk a lot about the slices of the pie. So how big the pie is getting. I think back in the day when Solomon took over Vanuatu and I was still at Clive's, there was 2 great cocktail bars. And then Little Jumbo opened, there was 3 good cocktail bars. And then Olo, then Cafe Mexico. And I'm not naming just the places I've opened, but like... but how much bigger has the pie got? So when I did FCW, rest in peace. When I did FCW,
Have a good night.
see you soon.
Can I take?
The big thing for me is that we always need to remember to take customer education back to 0. And I think that's the real key, is that after my months in Singapore last year and seeing their culture, Victoria's always been big on the fact that for every $1 that we spend on industry education, we spend 3 cents on general public education. And that is why we are lucky enough to have people sit in our bars and like go geeky cocktails, come down to the Mint and go, Swans has Negronis on tap that sell. This is a testament to the groundwork that all cocktail bartenders have done to build the education of clientele. We can all be great bartenders and great industry people, but unless we have a consumer that can actually consume what we're doing, it doesn't mean diddly squat. And it goes back to what we did at Solomon's, what we did at Clive's, and really like that inch by inch education, bit by bit by bit by bit, to build up our clientele. And I think we need to keep remembering that every time we do an industry seminar with a great brand ambassador, we should be doing a general public seminar the exact same way as we did at Clive's again. Because the thing is that we built a big pie out with Veneto, Clive's, Solomon's before it shut, that sort of thing. We built a decent sized pie. But the thing is, we need to keep building that pie, because we've got smaller and smaller portions that we can draw from that. Like people who love tequila and mezcal, go to Cafe Mexico. People who like local spirits, go to Olo. People who like the late night, and Alex is becoming very local centric here too, come to Mint. And so, how do we keep building on that clientele and keep building it? Like, everybody raves about Singapore, and I love Singapore. I'd live there if I was single, but I would say 0.5% of the market actually gets cocktails, which is scary when there's 5.5 million people in the country. Everybody's saying Singapore is the new cocktail capital of the world, but only 0.5 of the market actually gets what they're doing. That's a scary scenario to be in, because the bubble's going to burst, and then where does everybody sit? So in the next 5 years, I think the cocktail culture in Victoria really needs to pull back to their roots and understand the people who drink what we want them to drink, not what they need to drink. We give them what they need to drink, not what they want to drink. So we need to start educating our clientele on what we need to drink again.
What are you talking about? You're right.
I have a request for the next 5 years. Just with, there's so many really talented, amazing bartenders coming up. But those bartenders, I just really hope that they take their time, spend time learning classic cocktails, spend time learning balancing classic cocktails, and knowing your product, and not rush forward into making amazing 15-ingredient drinks because I'm bored of the 15-ingredient drinks and I just want to go somewhere where it can serve me a really well-made martini.
I just want a sidecar.
Yeah.
But also, I think that goes back to just patience. Solomon's, if Solomon's was 18 months ahead of the curve, honestly, if Solomon's had opened up in 2010, it would still be open today.
You were well ahead of the curve.
Well ahead of the curve. But there's always someone.
I know. Right?
But there's always someone ahead of the curve.
Thanks.
Luckily enough, to be really honest, Clive's only succeeded because we had a hotel budget. Soul's was standalone, independent. If I didn't have a hotel budget, I probably would have failed.
I think Clive succeeded because of the passion that you put behind the bar.
And
I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. I'm talking the truth.
Which is great. But the thing is, at the end of the day, is if Soul's existed a month, 6-12 months after Clive's opened, it would still be open today. It is still.
Or if I had the capacity to work as hard as you do.
But the thing is that patience. I think patience is the big one too.
Right.
Is patience. You have to be patient. You have to continue to be patient. I go back to the 18 months of Clive's, and Soul sat at the bar on a Saturday night when we were fucking empty, and he would be my tip for the night, not the tip. A tip.
I don't recall ever tipping you.
So, I think patience and the grind is the big thing for the next 5 years.
Patience and grind.
Anyone else?
Well,
Nadia, you have a question?
Not so much of a question. I'm really happy to be learning from this side of it. Oh God.
There you go.
Hi, Nadia. Just
closer to the mic.
Local lover of the cocktail scene and everything that you guys are doing. And I just want to speak to that point because as someone who loves the cocktail but wants to learn more, I really appreciate having these sorts of sessions and having the industry sessions that happen and having people who are not necessarily behind the bar welcome to learn those things. Because like you said, Brant, earlier, it does mean that when I come in, I'm like, okay, this is what a gin Ramos is supposed to be because I learned about it.
Fucking Ramos.
I was talking to Mike about a gin Ramos. I was like, one day when you're ready, can I come in and don't hate me because I just want to have a really good one. And so there are places I know that I will go to do that.
So he brought it up a couple times because I'm a fair bit younger than the rest of the team. But I learned about cocktail culture through the internet. And I was working in restaurants, and I was offered to be the bartender because I turned 19. Now that was really exciting for me. The owner of the restaurant, my cousin A, still the coolest guy I've ever met in my life. I don't think it's ever going to change.
Fuck you.
You run a podcast.
No, I think you do now.
I'm just going to get paid royalties now.
We spoke about royalties. And he made me this cocktail for the whole gang, and he made it in a deli cup, which is this is called the Sexy Time, and it's vodka, or a raspberry vodka, and lychee liqueur, and sourpuss, and all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, oh my god! Not only does this taste great, but also just look at the attention you're getting. You're the star of the show. This is wonderful.
Watch the Sexy Time on the next Veneto menu.
It's already coming.
We're bringing back sourpuss.
Yeah. We're bringing it back, baby. We're bringing it back. But then I dug deep and I found videos online, and it's just the Sazerac. And so I went to Clyde's and I asked for a Sazerac, and everyone was kind of surprised, and they were like, yeah, Sazerac. And then that was literally the moment where my career began. And it was the space for me to be able to say, hey, I want to try something new. And Shawn and Nate being here's something new. Here's a place to be comfortable. And now it's whatever it was, 7 years later. I have a career. We're continuing to build culture. We're creating other jobs for other people. And it just came from the ability to kind of say yes. I think it's wonderful. And so for you to say, Mike, just make a Ramos, and he's like, yeah, no problem. I want to make you a Ramos. And Saul would say the same thing. He's just yeah, I'm gonna make you a Jack Rose. He's yeah, fuck, no problem. I'm gonna make you the tuxedo number 2, or what, and all of these things build up to a bigger culture. And
I just don't think we ever should forget that end of the culture. And I think it's always building out the baseline and making the baseline longer.
I think good bartenders should ultimately be more excited about making you a great Sazerac than anything. That's more that's how I think when you come to the bar and go hey, make me a Sazerac, the appropriate response to bartender.
I really want to make you a Sazerac.
Yeah.
I'm more excited for the Sazerac order than
You got this right.
Yeah, I got it.
Just giving up.
I'll
walking away.
I'll put the USB in the bag.
I thought you had more fight in you, Shawn. I thought you had more fight. Now that Shawn's gone.
Now that Shawn's gone.
We've taken over the podcast.
I thought that was because you mentioned this guy in Napa, and I know that feeling of going to a bar and sorry, Napa guy, you're looking at us. He's on this live stream.
Oh.
And he probably
hi.
Yeah. It was just your bar decorum sucked, and it wasn't fun going to your bar. But I also part of me is just when someone comes to the bar and it's just making the most interesting, cool thing ever. I'm just have you had a Sazerac before? Peter, do you have an Italian staple that is that for you? Is a very small amount of ingredients, and it's still like the best thing you've ever
Well,
put in your
probably
mouth.
the spaghetti that I do
Spaghetti and meatballs.
with spaghetti with chili peppers and oil and butter, and that's it. Or tagliatelle with sage butter, that one as well.
Yeah.
Like, it can't be more simple. Sage, butter, salt, pepper, tiny little bit of broth, and the pasta. Right? Like, it's like making a martini in a way.
Yeah.
Like, how many ingredients does a martini have?
I mean, 2 to 3,
There you go.
maybe 4 if you include ice to stir it.
Which, isn't ice like our heat
Exactly.
in the kitchen?
I believe so. I think I learned that from Solomon, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question for Peter. If someone came in and asked for spaghetti and meatballs,
I'll do it for him.
you do it for them, okay?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, I'm just interested.
If he can make the cosmopolitan,
Yeah,
I
you
can make spaghetti and meatballs, right?
That's the
I always remember.
As long as you got
You're getting good to
Yeah,
know.
I got them all the time.
Yeah, right.
I have them all the time. You got to make your clients happy.
I remember.
that's
Like, they ask for that, you have to have it on the menu.
we mentioned profit. Yeah. Make meatballs.
My dad always tells the
Pasta and
story.
pizza.
It was the first night he opened up Pagliacci's. He was the only person on the floor. He's sitting there, with his father, sitting in the restaurant. This is my dad. Yeah, it was like the first night of opening up Pagliacci. Nobody's in the restaurant, right? Completely empty. He's sitting there, the only person on the floor, with his dad there, sitting, waiting on him. And, party 8 came into the restaurant. And like you go to 0 to 8, right? You're like, we made the night, right? This is it, right? And they came in and they went, do you have spaghetti and meatballs? And he went, no, I'm sorry.
Really?
And his father looked at him, and the people walked out. And his father, my grandfather, looked at him going, how could you not have spaghetti and meatballs? and it was because it was this moment of because people in 1979 that was Italian food. Regardless of if it's not
still
Italian
is.
food. It is in people's minds, right? But you never have it in Italy, right? You never have it that way.
Yes, you do.
You do?
Polpetta.
Yeah, with spaghetti
Sure.
noodles?
Of course you do.
I've always understood that as being as
It
something
is.
you don't have together.
But it's guess what? It's gone back there.
It's gone back down. It made full circle.
I'm not kidding you.
Okay. Oh wow, that's
There was a little place in Rome right outside the train station that I went to. I'm like, okay, I'll go here. And it was packed. It was lunchtime. It was packed with business people in suits and whatnot. And I kid you not, everybody was having the same thing.
Just plate.
Guess what they were having?
really well.
Guess what they were having?
No, that's perfect. I mean, it bookends into the conversation about having about having cosmopolitan. Or you know what I did?
America has influenced a lot of people.
Yeah.
America, North America. Let's
But
say
things
America.
come full circle that way.
USA.
Yeah.
USA.
When Catalana was open and I was the head bartender there, I kind of went polar opposite with the olive thing at that point. And when you ordered a martini, you got a choice of 3 different types of olive. And it was like there was a whole martini service with and they were served. They weren't in the drink. They were always on the side, so they didn't interfere with the drink. And
So we had 3 different styles of
first time
devil's
you had a drink.
testicles put in your martini.
None of them were in the martini.
ruined for
None of them were in the
there
martini
you
ever. I wouldn't do that.
Seriously.
Man,
Why?
one
Why?
Castellano in a bottle of the martini balances the drink.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it does.
You're wrong.
It needs acidity.
Vermouth and
Sure.
olives go really well.
I think my favorite martini
They go great.
is the one that
You know
used
what
to do
goes-
at FTW with the olive that was stuffed with an anchovy and
Oh, what was
cheese.
it called? That was
I like the one where you
Dirty
serve the
drink.
ham
What was it
sandwich.
What was it called? It was
and
called
brown.
the.
It was like the ultimate dirty martini.
What was it called?
So bad.
I fucking what?
I love it. It was so bad it was good.
It was so dirty. It was the dirtiest thing
No, it
ever.
was like an oil slick on
Oh, yeah.
on the top
It was
of the
great.
drink.
I loved it.
Well, since the question came up and that people asked me to talk about the martini,
I don't think
Yeah,
anybody in the room
yeah.
wants to talk about
Yeah.
martini.
No one cares
yeah.
anymore. Talk about the
Okay. Okay. You know what goes great together? Bordeaux and steak. Right? Go
Yeah,
wonderful.
of course.
Yeah. So next time you come in, I'll chop up the steak and put it in your glass of wine. Is it still a good idea? Just because things go well together doesn't mean you need to mix them. right? So olives are great next to a martini, but the martini itself is a very, very delicate drink. It's a delicate balance of gin and vermouth with orange bitters.
Just before you continue with this, Cody, can you leave the room? I just feel like anything he says right now, you're just going to take wholeheartedly true.
This is the gospel
I'll start
truth.
hearing about complaints from Alex about you saying, "You don't get olives in your martini, you pig, get out of here."
And a touch of acidity is important, which is why it's so critical that the lemon zest happen on top of martini. And if that doesn't happen, like the drink
It's not acidity, but yeah, I get it.
It's not. Well, no, there should be enough acidity in your vermouth. If your vermouth is not stale, then you should be using enough vermouth that it should balance.
On that note, Squamble Vermouth just released a dry vermouth.
Oh, that's exciting.
And it's freaking unreal.
I can't wait.
Yes.
And on that note, can I take my podcast back?
No, we voted.
No. Well,
Now, do you wash your glass with
No.
vermouth before you make
No.
Okay, stop.
Is that like, I need to know.
Okay. This is an off mic thing.
No.
Seriously. When a glass comes out of the
Don't try and
when
sound it.
glass is sitting there and it develops the smell and the flavor of the room.
So we as in the guys who pioneered to do this, like every bar that makes cocktail bars. They have like the Belgian beer sprays, and so like typically you would rinse out that glass before you put it in, so you have a clean glass.
Or previously frozen glass.
Yeah, which was
That
rinsed.
smells like the fridge.
Well, your freezer shouldn't be having a bar freezer. Shouldn't have funky stuff in it.
Because it's only glass. It will still smell like freezer if you are not careful, but it should smell only like the freezer, not the fucking meat or the cheese or whatever. And yeah, just 2 ounces of gin.
I love Shawn. He's just sitting there. He's just like,
Hey,
when's
Shawn,
it my turn to...
Sean, what's your martini spec?
Ounce and a half of gin, 3/4 ounce of vermouth.
Ounce and a half of gin?
Yeah.
You're
2-1.
cheating. You're
I
cheating
taught him
people
that.
out, man.
2-1.
What?
I taught him that.
2-1.
You doing an ounce and a half of gin?
Yeah. 3/4 ounce of vermouth. Small coupe. Nice wash line. All you kids in these small coupes and the fucking high wash lines.
Are you fucking...
The martini is a very delicate drink.
Look, Nathan's agreeing with me. 2 higher wash lines in those small coupes, right, Nathan?
So
Yeah,
you have
say
a
thank you.
5.5 ounce glass.
Okay.
You do 2 ounces of gin and a half ounce vermouth, and you get up to about 5 ounces.
That's 1 to 4. No. You're wrong.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you are.
Oh, I love this shit now. I love
So
it. Come on.
the
Here we
small
go.
amount of gin is important because if you like go back and look at some old movies, like watch The Thin Man.
I'm definitely cutting this into 2 podcasts. Unless you're going to do a podcast just on the martini.
Don't you
And
ever-
everybody arguing, and then
Don't
just the
you
other
edit
podcast
me.
and everything else we've been talking about.
Okay, so going back to Casablanca.
The reason why 2 to 1,
All
the reason
the
why
gin
2 to 1
joints
works
all
is that
over.
it's not old school heavy on the vermouth, light on the gin, and it's not new school heavy on the gin, light on the vermouth.
Wait, so
it's right in the middle.
So you said 1.5 to 3/4.
Yeah,
So what's...
2 to 1.
Yeah, no, 2-1. But what's the size of the drink?
Manhattan's the same.
No, Manhattan is 2 ounces of fucking whiskey and one of that.
That's a big drink.
Or it is a big drink. Usually what we do at the bar is actually I want...
And how tall is your wash line?
It's just below the top.
Just below. That's not a wash line. That's to the top.
No, just below the top.
That's not. No, a wash line should be below.
That's how spills happen.
Thank you.
And that's how we get ants.
That's how people get pregnant.
That's how we get ants. That's how we get ants. I think, 50 mils and 25 mils. I'll talk about that. Like that.
Which is the same thing.
No, it's
Ounce and a half, 3 1/4 is
no. That's 5 mils less. It's 10 whole mils. It's 2 teaspoons less liquor.
Hey, something amazing
for
happened.
fucking
You're
$13.
2 teaspoons less than a man.
Something amazing just happened, guys. Hey, something just amazing happened. This is the first time in my entire career I've been bored by a conversation about Bartholomew.
Okay, on that note, we need to tie this off. Firstly, seeing that when he says that,
tie it off, charging that much for an ounce out of gin.
Okay, the drink is supposed to be small because you're supposed to have many of them.
And seeing that when he gets bored of conversations, we've had fights in New Orleans and other places where people have walked away from us and stopped talking to us for the night.
I understand how they
You
feel now.
pretend like that's like not a regular occurrence.
It happens all the time.
Like,
Thank you, everybody, for coming. I really appreciate this. This was a nice live podcast that we streamed, which makes no sense at all.
What is the difference between live and streaming live?
Dude, we go to concerts together. You know what the difference between live and streaming live is.
I'm glad you streamed it.
Well, is
Yeah, my
Saturday
phone's
Night
always
Live
dead.
not Saturday Night Live unless you go to the studio?
Next time. But thank you very much for coming, guys.
Philosophical question.
We're done.
Thank you for having me.
We're done. Thanks for listening, Pose Shifters. I hope you enjoyed that episode. I really enjoy sitting down with friends and peers and just chatting about the industry and getting down to the nuts and bolts of what's really going on out there. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, everything on all the platforms. Just hit it up and I'll do my best to answer any queries or questions you have. I'll see you next week, guys. Bye.